my first video that I've shot in a few months. One of the things I want to talk about today was the overcomplication of self-defense. A lot of people tend to make self-defense far more complicated than it really needs to be. I think that comes down, and I'm going to say that in the technical aspect, they like to use words that we don't use. Of course, I mean, let's look at some of the traditional styles first, and I'm not bagging on them. It's just they do things that I think it can make it confusing for people out there, that if they have no idea what martial arts is and they're just looking for a way to defend themselves, and that's the people looking for to defend themselves, not looking to keep true to an art form or keep to a culture or anything like that. I'm talking about people that are just looking to defend themselves. Well, you go into a regular, like a karate school, Shotokan school, an Aikido school, any school, even a judo school, that what they start using is they start using terms in Japanese, and honestly, it's the same stuff. I mean, a kick's a kick, side kick, roundhouse kick, back kick, hook kick, crescent kicks, spinning roundhouse, spinning heel kicks, but they have, of course, the Japanese terminology to it. You don't need the Japanese terminology to learn these techniques. You don't need the Japanese terminology for a punch, or for a palm strike, or for fingers to the eyes. You don't need that. It's just not necessary. Now, if you want to keep that because you want to honor the tradition and the culture and all that, that's different. That's wanting to do something for a different reason, though. If you're just looking for self-defense, I think that's why people tend to gravitate to Krav Maga classes, kickboxing classes, things like that, because a punch is a punch and a kick's a kick, an elbow, and that's what they know, and that's what they're taught. And they're taught these things that to be, the simple ways of doing it, and sometimes natural ways of defending themselves. And it's explained, and not through kata. A lot of times you do a lot of katas in classes, and there's people that are even on YouTube, and there's people out there, they'll teach you the meaning behind the kata, which is called bunkai, and again, it's just Japanese terminology for for different things. Kumite is actually sparring, and so it's like you don't need the terminology to still be effective. Now, if you want it because it's traditional Japanese and that's what you want, or traditional Chinese and you want to use their terms, or traditional Korean and you want to use their terms, that's fine. That's up to you. That doesn't make it more effective or less effective for self-defense. But figure this out, though. Now, while you're thinking of the Japanese term for your kick or your punch, someone already saying punch and they already know what that is. Your brain's already registering it. You have to register different things on a different level when it comes to that. Now, I'm not going to get into all that, but also there's some styles out there that like to name a lot of things. They like to do it, and I think that's fine. I think naming stuff is good for us to reference it, but at the same time, don't overcomplicate even the name of it. Okay, I think that's why MMA guys, they have it a little bit easier. They number things, and numbers are easy because combo 1, it could be just a left right hook uppercut. Combo 3 is a lead left. It's your jab cross. Roundhouse to the leg and elbow to the head. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, where, what are you doing? Like, how are you training this into you? How are you getting it into your head? Because ultimately, in a self-defense situation, you don't have a corner man out there yelling, one, combo 1, 2, you don't have that. You don't have people out there telling you, for example, use some of the American Kempo terms, you snapping twig and all this stuff because it's the right side, or whatever. what it barrels down to is people like to use, and some people even like to use large scientific terms. They like to utilize all these different things that really, for just the average person who has no idea what what they need, or they've never done a thing like this, that's the last thing they need, is to have their mind completely filled with a bunch of what I consider mumbo jumbo. It's martial arts mumbo jumbo. If you put too much stuff in there, you're going to just continue to confuse the brain. It gives them way too much to access. It gives them too much. Will they understand it later? Sure. But that could be given in a handout or a booklet or something else. They don't need for the instructor to sit there and yammer with them doing it. You should be able to see the technique, what you're doing, play with that technique, and play with what's happening if someone goes off script. And because that's a little more lively, that's a little more what's going to happen. A lot of people get too caught up into this term or that term, or we have to swing this way to do this, to do that, to do this. In reality, you just need to learn, you have to learn your awareness. You need to learn basically your pre-fight, which is awareness, avoidance, if you can, alertness, everything that you have to do to make sure that you're in the state of mind to be able to survive a conflict. And when that conflict comes, then you have the actual fight portion of it. You got pre-fight, fight, and post-fight. So you got fight. So you got pre-fight. You got to have all the awareness. You got the fight, and the fight's where the techniques come in. And that's when you start learning how to basically you gotta control the environment. You gotta control what's happening. You gotta get control over it, because they are going to ultimately, in a self-defense situation, they are ultimately going to have the control first, because the vast majority of self-defense comes from actually getting attacked first, not someone bowing up to you, slap you in your face. You should be able to avoid that. If you're not avoiding that, that's because you want to fight, and it's just because it's a measuring contest for you, and that's what you want to do. And then that's a mutual combat situation, not self-defense. Okay, that's a whole different thing. Self-defense is you've already been attacked, you've been ambushed, you've been blitzed in some fashion, and you have now got to get control over the chaos that's happening. And that means you have to basically set your footing in. You've got to get yourself set in. You have to enter in onto the subject, and you've basically got to now do everything possible, and that's basically control, enter, basically control, engage, and injure, immobilize, neutralize, whatever it is, whichever way you want to go with it, and then escape. That's some of the biggest parts of this. You can't disengage from a conflict unless you know you can escape right as soon as that happens. If you cannot escape because you're in a tight quarter situation, there's something that's happening, you have to engage this situation. And what I mean by gain control is basically understand what's happening around you, get yourself in a position where you're defending yourself properly, like guarded up properly, grabbing onto the person so you have a little bit more of a chance to get your thoughts together. That's control. Getting control of the situation, getting control of yourself, your psyche, all that stuff, and to get set to engage. And what I mean by engage is now you're using the methods. It doesn't matter what it is, man. You could hit someone 4 times, 15 times in the face with a fist, or you grabbed a rock or a stapler or something, whatever was nearest to you, and you start just jamming it in their face. Doesn't matter if you go 1, 2, oh, now I do this, that, and the other. That has no bearing. Self-defense is a survival thing, and that means if I take this and I staple his eye because that just had it flipped open and I just smashed it hard across his face, and it clicked in. It may not, but the fact is you hit it and it clicks in, and now he's screaming because he got a staple in his eye, or you jammed it upside his head because you got a hold of this nice little improvised weapon and you're jamming it into his head because he's trying to defend himself, and then you grab a letter opener and now you're stabbing him in the neck, or or now you take that and you cut him across his face, or you take a swipe at him and makes him back off. Now you escape. Now, part of me says, now some say that didn't neutralize. I said that does neutralize the situation. If he backs off and he's not even wanting to engage anymore, and he's trying to disengage and he's trying to take off, you're done. You escape. Immobilizing, or basically doing this doesn't mean you have to destroy the person all the way to the ground and continue to beat this person down, unless they're still fighting you. You continue your onslaught until that person quits fighting, because that's the only way you're going to survive the altercation. That's the facts. So a lot of times, so you don't have time to go, well, this is the marriage of motion, this is the marriage of gravity, this is the law of motion, this is this, that, and the other, blah 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 blah. Too much. And a lot of times they're trying to train too much, too quickly, and not just sticking to some basic things that can just simply work. There's some systems out there that can do that. There's some people out there that do that. That's what I used to do. I used to show people what they can use effectively at that time, and because I don't believe in giving you all the stuff. Now, you want to know the insides and outs because you want to become an instructor or something like that. I'll give you the paperwork. I'll show you what I mean behind it, why it works. Even if we're in the middle of class and you're trying to get it right, and I'll show you why you do it, why that's there. I don't have to completely break it down for you on a whiteboard every single time. That kind of stuff is for, that's not for self-defense. That's your technical aspects are for training and teaching principles of people that are going to instruct. You're going to basically be there only for the instructors to help them end up going out to instruct others. It's a totally different situation. A lot of people don't want to take it that level, though. Scratching the eyes, thumb gouging the eyes, and a punch to the neck. Kick to the knee, to the groin, smashing in the knee, whatever it is. Like I said, improvised weapon, just picking up something and start smashing someone. A lot of people don't think that way, or they just they haven't thought of it that way. And sometimes it's just easy. I have a lot of students that have always said, man, is it really just that easy? And I'm like, it really is just that easy. The problem is a lot of people don't want to make it that easy. And it's because, I can't keep my doors open if I give them all my stuff, my secrets. Okay, that's what bothers me too. But anyways, there's too much mumbo jumbo out there, and honestly, it needs to be less complicated, especially for beginners. It needs to be less complicated. They just need to understand what to do as quickly as possible, and that means condensing it. That means simplifying it. Simplifying your matters is going to help them be able to get through this a lot quicker. And I think a lot of people, and I think if anyone's been in a self-defense situation, anyone who's been in a fighting situation, any type of situation, combat, why do you think military just simply says kill, kill, kill? And it's because that's the only mindset that they want them to have in war. And that's a simple fact, right? Anything to do just to kill that enemy, right? Well, in civilian life, it's a little bit different, but you want to keep it as simple as possible, so that way they can access these things as quickly as possible. So cut the mumbo jumbo, keep it simple, stupid, and let's just make sure that everybody's learning the right things, and let's continue to talk about martial arts, but let's keep it smart. Thanks.